Hey listeners, so happy to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Today's topic is why we fall out of love. I think one of the most important things to understand is how we fall in love for us to understand how we fall out of love. So, what are the steps actually that take us to fall in love with people? Normally, what happens is when we meet someone, there's a certain quality in them that we start to admire, and admiration is the starting point of love. There's something about them. Some people like to call this you are actually seeing in them something that is pulling you towards them, so that's an attractive quality in them. So admiration is the start point of how we start to get engaged with someone, and then it moves to what we call connection. So when we start to speak with them, maybe we find some common ground, and there's a part that starts. So we go on the first date and we feel like, yeah, this is my kind of person, or this is the vibe I like. So we move from admiration to connection, and at some point along the way, after connection, we move into what we call commitment, which means I am now choosing you to be the person that I'd like to hang out with or commit to. I no longer want other people in my life. I want you as the main person. So we make that commitment that yes, it's with this person that I'd like to go forward in my life. And eventually, what takes us forward from that point is our compatibility, our ability to stay friends even when the infatuation or the honeymoon period gets over. So once you understand that that's the flow of the journey towards love, it's very easy to then understand what would be the flow out of love. So one of the things I always say is the first thing that can happen when we start to fall out of love is we stop engaging with the person like the way we used to. If you notice in your early days of love, what are the things you used to do? Maybe dress up, look your best, put your best foot forward, take this person for interesting outings, for example dinners or plays or movies. So there was a lot of engagement because you were excited to spend time together. That engagement used to bring out the best in both of you. One of the things that tends to happen when we start to fall out of love is we stop making that effort. That effort starts to we start to take the other person a lot more for granted. Tony Robbins at one point said that if we can every single morning wake up to a person where we replay the first day of our commitment relationship with them every single day and show up with that energy, we'll never fall out of love. So I feel like that's one of the things. If you can keep bringing back that how I used to be or what I used to do then, can I repeat those days back at this point of time, and you'll see suddenly that out of love feeling will start to leave you. Another reason I think why we start to fall out of love is we start to take each other so much for granted that we stop appreciating and complimenting one another for the nice things that they do for us. Our focus becomes the one, two, or three things that we are not getting. So it's very easy to fall out of love when you are not feeling appreciated in a relationship. So both ways, the one who's falling out of love could be falling out of love because their needs are not being met. And I do believe that in any relationship, when our needs stop being met, then our ability to be in love becomes very difficult. So understanding your partner's needs and complimenting and appreciating them around the things that they love doing for you keeps them encouraged to continue to be in the relationship in a certain manner. I think another thing we can surely say is that we stop communicating. One of the biggest problems in a relationship is that when our expectations don't get matched and we start to get disappointed in that relationship again and again and again, instead of continuing to bring that energy back of communication on what it is that you want, at some point we give up or we quit. And when we give up and quit, what can land up happening is that because of that lack of communication, we start to go our own ways. We start to look for things outside. We can land up start to desire other people or desire being away from our partner because our partner no longer fulfills that needs or fulfills those emotions that we used to have when we fell in love. I think also a lot of us take physical intimacy too lightly after a while. Bringing that back into our marriage is so important. I remember I was speaking to a sexologist and she said that, you know what, having planned dates around your physical life is such an important part of a relationship. And I know to a lot of people there's a lot of resistance that you mean I have to plan it, like I go to the gym and therefore I have to also be with my partner, and I also have to like a to do list, one of the things is on my list in that manner. I'm saying yes. After a while there is a chance, because they do say that after about, I'm not exactly sure of the number, but it takes about 1,000 days for people to grow out of the physical attraction that we had for one another when the relationship started. So if we can bring in and make it more interesting and honor each other in every possible way, I think that would be really lovely for every relationship. And you know what, that can start to set the tone for making that extra effort, even if you don't want to, for the other person, so that the other person then can make that extra effort for you, and that will help us to stay in that relationship rather than falling out of love. And last but not the least, something that really worked for my husband and me was shared goals. So I remember we got married in 1999, and in 2006 we went to Goa, where both of us set goals together for the first time. Up until that point, he had been setting his goals and I had been setting mine. But for a change, this time what we did was we set goals as a couple: how we'd like to raise our children, what we'd like our house to look like, how we'd want to go for these 3 trips together this year, how we'd like to. So, all of these shared goals really made us very excited about our future. And when a couple is excited about seeing a common future of something that is going to bring them happiness and joy, the chances of them then falling out of love becomes very rare, because you know what, beyond the person or beyond this relationship, there is more to be achieved together, and that kind of binds you at a very foundational level. So if you really don't want to fall out of love, I'm going to say start engaging with your partner, become a lot more complimenting and appreciative. It'll sound really weird to you that Puneet actually has a reminder on his phone to appreciate me. And for some people, this would be blasphemous that, oh my God, no chance, that it's too fake. But can I tell you, in the beginning, I don't know if it was fake or not, but today he genuinely looks around the house and goes, Pooja, thank you for the gorgeous fresh flowers you've put in the bedroom. Or, oh, I can see you've just got your hair colored or a haircut done. And he genuinely looks for things, because he's not a very complimenting person. It is something that he's had to build in himself, but that he's been willing to do so. I think that in itself I'm so supremely grateful for. Only shows how important I must be to him, that he's making that level of effort where things that don't come naturally to him, yet he's doing them. True or not? So I think a lot of times when we tell someone to do something for us and it doesn't come naturally to that person, we start thinking that maybe they don't care enough or they don't love us enough. Actually, the truth is not that they don't care or love. Maybe their basic language of love is not that, and therefore they are speaking to us in that manner. So, starting to communicate, if you can create a routine around communication. One of the things I learned, a very beautiful question, I can't remember the teacher's name, Tinchitha. Chin, I'm going to skip what the teacher's name was. One of those Buddhist monks, where he spoke about, if every morning we woke up and asked our partner, what is it I can do for you today that will make you feel loved? And I thought it was such a beautiful question. And every morning, Puneet and I are early risers. We wake up at 4, 5 o'clock. He leaves for golf. So 4 to 5, we get to spend our coffee time together. And every morning we ask each other. And sometimes, the answer is so simple. He'll say things like, can you just book that restaurant for today evening? Or can you just, make sure that there is a cheese platter at home? It could be a very complicated thing. It could be a very simple thing. The thing is that every single day asking that question really helps us bond at a level that never used to exist earlier. Of course, like I spoke about, physical intimacy and really, again, communicating on that. I think a lot of couples are allowing it to turn into a taboo topic amongst them where they don't speak about it, maybe because they are hurting so bad or the pain is so extreme of the rejection that they could be feeling, that they stop communicating, or they make the other person become so uncomfortable that he or she tends to run away from the conversation. So I think bringing conversation back around physical intimacy, so very important. And last but not the least, shared goals truly help. So if you start to do these five things, or rather if you stop doing the five things like I spoke about right in the beginning of today's podcast, I have a feeling that we can really start to stay in love, or rather I would go a step further and say we can really start to grow in love. Because if we are not growing in love, you can be rest assured we are falling out of love. So making that special effort for that very special person is absolutely essential if you really want your relationship to be the one of those where people speak about it even at when you're like 50 years together, 60 years together, or your legacy is the relationship that you shared, that your children and grandchildren get to see. So I do believe in my heart that to me the most important thing in my life is my relationships, and I would like all of us to start to make that effort that's required for us to live that beautiful life. Because at the end of our life, it's not the money we made or the careers we had. I think it's all about the relationships we shared. So very important that we don't just take this one thing for granted. All the very best. I will see you in my next podcast. Do let me know in the comment box below which was your favorite tip for not falling out of love.